Dawn over Eldoria. The forest was the first to awake, long before any living creature. Lyra slept with her head resting on Fair's shoulder, his hand tangled in her curls. She woke first and looked at him for a long time, unmoving. Sensing her gaze, he opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was her face. They had breakfast by the open window. The forest gave them everything they needed. She gathered herbs while he walked alongside her, occasionally naming the trees in an ancient tongue. She mispronounced the words, and he corrected her without a trace of mockery. He watched her work, and in his eyes was something he showed to no one else. In the evenings, they sat by the fire, and she told him about the human world. He listened attentively, asking questions that surprised her. Then one morning, armed men appeared at the edge of Eldoria. There were 12 of them, royal guardsmen wearing the colors of the human realm. The captain held a scroll bearing the royal seal, an order demanding the return of a subject. Lyra went out to meet them herself, unwilling to let them step into the forest. She read the decree and her hands trembled slightly. Her father was dying, and as his sole heir, she was required to return. Human law demanded it. Fair stood behind her, reading the tension in her shoulders. He understood before she even uttered a word. He said no, calmly, absolutely, with the tone of someone whose word had always been law. Lyra placed her hand on his chest, a quiet gesture. Don't stop them, just be with me. She told him she had to go, but that she would return. He looked at her and remained silent. Yet in his silence lay what words could never express. She took his hand in both of hers for a single second. Then she turned to the soldiers and said, "Very well, I am coming with you." Fair took a step forward and the soldiers raised their weapons instinctively. Lyra stepped between him and the guards, not out of fear but to protect them both. She shook her head. "Don't." He froze, staring at her. She offered him a half smile, a difficult, fragile smile, and walked away with the soldiers. He followed them all the way to the border of Eldoria.